What's going on, folks? Today I'm going to try to show you 5 ways to help you guys get less backlashes with your bait caster. One of the most frustrating things about throwing a bait caster, one of these guys right here, is that sometimes they can be your worst enemy because you get a lot of backlash and it can be extremely inefficient to use one. But I'm going to show you 5 things that's going to help you get fewer backlash so you can get more casts and so you can catch more fish.
Hey guys, make sure you check out the description box in this video for a full list of equipment that I like to use for various setups from sportsmansoutfitters.com.
Right off the jump, one of the best things you guys can do is select the right rod for the application. If you're using a rod and it's really whippy and you're trying to throw a 1/2 ounce, 3/4 ounce, maybe a 1 ounce bait, you're going to get a lot of backlash simply because the tip of that rod is going to have a lot of whipping motion, and the tip of your rod is going to want to fling that bait out there a lot faster than your reel wants. The line wants to come off the reel, and in turn you're going to have an overrun, which is a backlash, and it's going to be extremely inefficient. So make sure that you're pairing the right rod with the right bait. If you're using something a little bit heavier, use a little bit stiffer rod. If you're using something that's a little lighter, have a rod that has a little bit of softer tip, and you're going to get a lot less backlashes with it. The second tip that I'm going to give you guys is using the right line for the presentation. Fluorocarbon is probably the most widely used line out there right now, but fluorocarbon, it just isn't the best line for every situation. Fluorocarbon is a lot stiffer material. The material is a lot coily. It wants to come off the reel a lot faster. And if you're a novice, if you're a beginner with the bait caster, the best thing that you can do is use mono. Well, the first thing that when I suggest that a lot of people say, well, what about mono? What if it breaks? Well, I can tell you, you're not going to catch any fish if you can't get the bait to the bass and get the bait down to where the fish are. And if you're backlashing a lot, you're simply not getting the bait to where it's supposed to get it, where you need to get it. So switching to mono is going to help you guys out that are beginners. Now, for you guys that have been out on, fishing, and if you have to absolutely use fluorocarbon, the best thing you can do is put a little less line on your reels. What that does is that's going to have a little bit more friction, and it's going to slow it down. If you slow the weight, how fast the line comes off the reel, you're going to get less backlash, you're going to be more efficient, you're going to be happier. So if you have to use fluorocarbon, use a little bit less line. Doesn't mean just 1/16 or 1/8 of an inch less line in your spool. You're going to get a lot less backlash. And if you're just starting to use a bait caster, just switch to mono. Mono's a lot softer, it's a lot more user friendly, and it's going to let you be a little bit more efficient when you're making casts, get less backlash. And even if you do get a backlash with mono, mono's much cheaper. Monofilament's a lot cheaper. You peel it off, cut it off, whatever you got to do, throw it away, spool it back up, and you're golden. So consider using the right line for the right situation on your bait casters, and you're going to be a lot more efficient. You know, something that a lot of people don't consider when they're making their reel choices is the type of bait caster. Every bait caster isn't created equal. Some spools are shallower and really wide, and some spools are a lot deeper and much narrower. If you're trying to throw a heavy bait, a bigger spool is going to be a lot better because you're typically using bigger lines, so it has more line capacity, and if the line sits down in the spool correctly, it's going to cast much better and much more efficiently. So pay attention to your reel spools, to the reel size, and find out which one of your reels works best with your line and with the bait, and you're going to be a lot more efficient as well. The next tip I got for you guys is just to relax when you're making a cast. Don't try to so hard and be very rigid when you're trying to make a real long cast to get your bait a long way from the boat. The best thing you can do is spaghetti arms. Relax your arms, relax the muscles in your arm, and let the rod do the work for you. If you need to make a longer cast, instead of trying so hard and really being forceful and really trying to force that bait out there a long ways, consider these things. If you need to make a longer cast, use a smaller diameter line. If you're using 20-pound test, downsize to 17 or 15. That'll give you a little bit more distance. Loosen up the magnets on your reel a little bit, just a notch or two. Just start with 1 notch at a time. Let that help you get a little bit more distance. Also, choose your baits accordingly. I know that's like a duh moment, but use a little bit heavier bait. That's going to let you get more distance on it. Also, watch the length of your rod. Use a longer rod when you want more distance. It's going to give you a lot more leverage over the bait and let you have a lot more casting power and get that bait out there without having to be rigid and try really hard. The moment that you become really rigid and try to force that bait out there, you're going to get an overrun. You're going to be really disappointed in your cast. And the last tip that I have for you guys is to use a bait with a weight transfer system if possible. Obviously, when you're using soft plastics, that's not always the case. But even being so, an 1/8 ounce shaky head on a bait caster just doesn't do the trick. So use baits on a bait caster that really work well with the bait caster. If you can use, a rattle trap casts really well, it's really heavy. Use baits that have a weight transfer system and they're going to cast better in the wind. So those are my 5 tips to help you guys get a lot less backlash when you're out there on the water. So I hope that helps you out. Make sure you share this video, like and subscribe to my channels for more tips and videos like this. And if you want to, share it with a buddy that backlashes a lot. I'm sure he'll appreciate it.